Got ourselves here a 2000 Ford Explorer front brake job. Got the front tire off. 19mm lug nuts. Here's my tools I've been using. Basic tools. Breaker bar, ratchet, 13mm, 15mm, 19mm. And we got the little bolts here are going to be 13mm. And we have the 15mm bolts back here for the caliper bracket, because we're going to replace the brake rotor as well. You don't have to take that off. If you choose to just throw some brake pads on your rotors, you can just take the caliper part off here with the 13mm bolts, collapse the pistons and do some lubrication and put it back together. We'll be replacing the pads and the rotors. And then if you're doing a pad slap, you can actually just swivel it up right there, pull the old pads out, and put the new ones in if you wanted to. See the squealer on this side? Where it is, it's on the outer pad. On the downward spot there. And we'll just go ahead and loosen up the 15mm bolts we showed you earlier and take this bracket off. As we're using a big breaker bar, if you don't have any power tools, big breaker bar. I'll take these out and clean them up and use some lubricant, brake lubricant, make sure they move in and out. And if they don't, you got to make sure they come free, or you wear out your pads prematurely, you'll have a brake pull issue, all kinds of problems. We have our new brake kit. Comes with some new hardware for the caliper. We're going to put that on as well. And there's our new brake pads right there. Alright, then we're going to collapse the piston or pistons, as this has dual pistons. We're going to use a brake pad on there. Nice. Their choice of C-clamp or large channel locks. Just with collapsing the pistons, you can either just watch the brake fluid level in your master cylinder so it doesn't come spewing out, Use a paper towel or a rag to absorb some of it. The other option, of course, is to open up the bleeder screw and push the pistons in. Sometimes it does help in collapsing them and making it easier. So, but we could not just collapse the pistons. Sometimes, like I like to do with a screwdriver in these holes because of the piece that was in here. So, got our pistons collapsed, and we'll throw our new pads in here. New hardware. And you will run into this. According to my directions on the box, it says the red dot. You can see it on there. Red dot is for the inner brake pad, and both of my red dots have the squealer, so I'm going to follow the directions from the box and put the red dots on the inside. And we have some nice purple brake lubricant for the slides. We are going to install those. We cleaned them up. So we'll just tighten up our 13mm bolts. Tighten up our 13mm bolts, and then we'll be done. Make sure you press on the brake pedal a few times to make sure you got a good brake pedal. You want to pull out of your driveway or somewhere and realize that you don't have any brakes right away because you collapsed the pistons. So 100 foot-pounds of torque. Putting the lug nuts back on, put them on there tight, and should be good to go with your front brakes on your Ford Explorer.